We start with the coronavirus situation here in Japan. In the western prefecture of Osaka, officials confirmed 666 new cases on Saturday, a daily record high. The central government has decided to allow Osaka and two other prefectures to take stronger measures without an emergency declaration. It's the third straight day that the tally in Osaka has topped 600 and the fifth day in a row that the city's cases have outnumbered Tokyo's. Residents are expressing concern.
I'm worried that the number of cases has kept rising.
People seem to be letting their guard down. I think we need to act more cautiously.
Following the resurgence, stricter restrictions will be implemented in Osaka City based on a decision made by the central government. For a one-month period starting Monday, restaurants and bars in the city will be requested to close at 8 p.m. In Hyogo and Miyagi prefectures as well, the number of infections remain high, and the tougher measure will be applied there too. The healthcare systems in the three prefectures are under growing pressure. Miyagi Governor Murae Yoshihiro says more than 90% of hospital beds set aside for seriously ill patients in the city of Sendai are occupied.
The white areas in this image show pneumonia. This patient should be hospitalized, but there are no beds, so the patient is receiving an IV drip in a hotel. This is why the number of hospitalizations has to come down.
Across the country, more than 2,700 cases were reported on Saturday. Over 400 people are now in serious condition. Turning to Taiwan, where authorities are questioning a man in connection with the island's deadliest ever train crash. It occurred when an express train hit the man's truck and derailed, killing 51 people and injuring more than 180 others. The accident happened on Friday in the eastern county of Hualien. The authorities suspect the vehicle slid down an embankment at a construction site beside the entrance to a train tunnel because the truck's emergency brake was not properly engaged. Work to move the train started on Saturday but is being hampered as the first 5 cars of the 8-car train that entered the tunnel are severely damaged. The authorities expect it will take about 7 days to move all the cars and fully resume train service. Many family members of the victims visited the accident site and held a traditional ritual to call back the souls of the deceased. South Korea and China have agreed to ramp up their efforts to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. South Korean Foreign Minister Chon Wi-yon met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Saturday. Chon's in China on his first trip abroad since assuming his post in February. At the start of the talks in the city of Xiamen, Chon noted ballistic missile launches by North Korea last month. He said he expected Beijing to play a constructive role in the peace process on the Korean peninsula. The ministers agreed to develop a strategic partnership between the two countries and to work to arrange a visit to South Korea by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Next year marks the 30th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two nations. The meeting between the foreign ministers is believed to be part of China's push to counter the U.S. by strengthening its ties with South Korea, an ally of Washington. China appears to be wary of what is seen as a U.S.-led containment strategy in the Indo-Pacific region directed at Beijing. The families of Japanese citizens abducted by North Korea have issued a new message for the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. They hope to persuade him to allow the abductees to return home. 82-year-old Iizuka Shigeo, who is a brother of abductee Taguchi Yaeko, said at a meeting on Saturday that they will never give up despite constraints imposed by the coronavirus pandemic.
Make it clear that we will never give up efforts to bring our loved ones back.
The participants shared a sense of urgency as abductees' relatives are aging, saying there is not much time left. Last month marked the 24th anniversary of the founding of the group, and this is only the second time it has sent a message to Kim. The first was in 2019.
The message has a deadline. We cannot agree to the normalization of Japan-North Korea relations unless the parents of the abductees can embrace their children again.
The message says the relatives pledge not to hinder the process of normalizing bilateral relations by asking the abductees about the country's secrets if all of them are returned at once. Unlike the previous message, it also calls on the North to agree to a bilateral summit.
I feel weaker as the years go by. I really want to see my daughter again. This is the last chance. I hope Prime Minister Suga will talk things through with the North Korean side to bring my daughter and the other abductees back home.
The group adopted a plan of action and agreed to urge the Japanese government to negotiate with the North without compromising, with the aim of holding a summit soon and bringing back the abductees altogether. Washington has lifted sanctions on the chief prosecutor and a senior official of the International Criminal Court in The Hague. That comes as President Joe Biden rolls back many of the policies of his predecessor, Donald Trump. The previous administration imposed the sanctions in September. They were over the ICC's investigation into alleged war crimes, including torture by U.S. troops in Afghanistan. The sanctions froze the two ICC officials' assets in the United States. Secretary of State Antony Blinken issued a statement on Friday calling the measures inappropriate and ineffective. The State Department has also ended a separate 2019 policy on visa restrictions on some ICC staff. Blinken said the U.S. continues to disagree strongly with the ICC's actions relating to the situation in Afghanistan, but he added that it is better for the U.S. to engage with all stakeholders in the ICC process than to keep imposing sanctions. Japan's two largest airlines are finding more temporary jobs at other businesses for their employees due to ongoing struggles amid the coronavirus pandemic. ANA Holdings is sending about 750 staff members to work at entities such as corporations and local governments. The positions are expected to last from 6 months to up to 2 years. The company said last October it would temporarily place more than 400 employees in jobs elsewhere. Japan Airlines says an average of about 1,400 of its staff members are engaged in work outside the company every day. ANA and JAL hope the experience their employees gain in other industries will help improve regular services at the two airlines. Those were the stories for this hour.
More than 1 million cases of COVID-19 worldwide. The count by Johns Hopkins University shows almost 1/4 of them are in the United States. In sub-Saharan Africa, the virus has infected more than 3,000 people and killed about 100. Aid workers are blocked from some areas there as countries close land and sea borders. In Singapore, the Prime Minister announces schools and most businesses will close for a month beginning next week. And in Spain, 101-year-old Encarnacion Busan leaves the hospital after recovering from COVID-19.
The half-brother of King Abdullah of Jordan says he's been placed under house arrest as a number of top officials have been detained in a security operation. Prince Hamza, who was removed as Crown Prince in 2004, has accused Jordan's leaders of incompetence, corruption and harassment. New national lockdowns have come into force in parts of Europe as countries struggle to contain a surge of coronavirus infections. It means Christian worshippers celebrating Easter will, for a second year, be doing so under vastly different circumstances. France and Italy are among the countries entering lockdown. And a spectacular parade has been taking place in Cairo to transfer the mummified remains of 22 ancient Egyptian royals to a new museum in the south of the city. 18 kings and 4 queens were transported on custom-made vehicles designed to minimize vibration.